Okay, so a couple people have asked me how I disassemble and clean the CON-70 pilot converter. And if you're not familiar with it, in some of the larger pilot pens, or even things like the Pilot Custom 74, the converter that's used is quite large. It's kind of nice. It holds a lot of ink, and you can see I have a little bit left in here. You can see because if I just move this around, you'll see little globs of ink in it. And one tricky thing is cleaning these. So cleaning them can be a little bit of a challenge. And so I want to show you how I do it. And I don't generally always do this, but I do it whenever I go from like a dark to light ink. So if I'm going from maybe like a dark green to a yellow, or a black to a red, if it's really important that I want the pigmentation to match something that's already on paper or something like that, whatever color pickiness you have, you really want to clean this as best you can. And most people are pretty successful with just plunging this into water and pumping it a bunch of times and clearing it out. There's a couple ways you could do that, but I want to show you another way, one I haven't seen online, but a lot of people ask, like, how do you get the ink out of the back, which is this like little area back here. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is separate the converter. As you can see, I have some ink in here. So this glass of water is going to basically contain all of like the dirtiness that's about to happen. But essentially, the first step is to clean the front section as best you can. That's the first. So to do that, you just take it and you plunge it into the water and you pump it. You're just going to push down on this button a bunch of times. You can see I'm getting ink in there. All right. I didn't wait till I was completely dry, so I'm wasting a little ink here. It's not really a big deal. Got plenty of ink. So I pump it. So now the idea is pump it full of water and then push it so I get some water out. Shake it a couple times. All right. Okay. And we're going to get it better. But if I can get a bulk of it out in the beginning, that helps. So that's the first step. So now I've got less ink. I still have some ink. But you can get more out later. But the next thing is you're going to use some force to twist this back section to loosen it. So you're going to turn it to the left to back it out. Okay. So I'm going to take this, set that aside. I'll just put that right there. And the reason why lots of people have difficulty cleaning them isn't because of the front section. It's because some ink, I don't know if you can really see it, some ink makes its way back into this back portion of this converter. And most people are just like, well, that's just the way it goes. So like if I take the barrel off, right, I can take this barrel off. It's like part of the section, I don't know what to really call it, this tube. You're going to want to clean that. So let's just dunk down a little bit of water. Try to keep my hands as clean as I can here, but whatever. They're going to get messy. It's part of the process. Okay, so like even this is pretty good. If you're really, really concerned, you could take a Q-tip or a small Q-tip, or I have a paper towel here. I'll show you how I take a little bit. I'll push it in and kind of clean that up. But I'm going to set this aside as well. And so you can see some of the ink on the plunger, or this like stopper, which acts as like a valve to prevent more ink from escaping. That's got some ink on it. Then the wire, there's a little wire that holds it. It's got some ink on it. I'm going to kind of wipe that a little here. But what's remaining is a little ink back in here. So you say, well, how do I get back to take that off? Do I rip this white thing off? I don't want to damage this. I don't want to scrape up the outside of this seal, because if you scrape up the outside of this white seal, it won't seal well anymore against that tube that we just cleaned. And so you want to avoid that. So here's the way I do it. I take a pair of tweezers. So I get these bent nose tweezers. And if you look really close up in there, it's going to be really hard to see. There are two little grooves. So if I let's see if I can maneuver this in a way so you can see. So you see there's like a flat that's going up and down now. It's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can make it out. There's like a little flat slit. And we need to get the tweezers on either side of this shaft. And then I'm going to turn to the left. So I take the tweezers, I stick them till they fit in that groove, and I'm going to turn to the left with the tweezers. Or you hold the tweezers stationary and you turn, I guess, from the bottom side of the left to loosen. Okay, so now that it's loose, I want to pull up on the rod, turn to the left, and I can take this part out. I'm going to set that down. I don't want to lose anything. So now you can see, look at this. All of this green ink I had in here before, sorry about the camera refocusing, all that green ink in there, I want to get out. So what you can do is take a syringe, pull a little water in the syringe. I'm going to bring the cup over here. And I'm just going to squirt a little water in there. We'll do that a couple times. And I know I've got dirty water here, but you'd be surprised how far you can go with a little, even though you have dirty water. If it's really dirty, I mean, you can't really do anything about it, but if you're really anal, you could get a brand new glass of water, one clean one, one dirty one, and you could really have it really clean. Okay, so now, if you look now, look at the vial, this thing. Look how clear that is. Now it's got a little tinge of green to it, right? And I dab this a couple times, get the water out. And I mean, look how much better that is. And that's the problem. Everyone's like, how do you clean this little back section? So that's how you do it. A little syringe, okay, and the tweezers. Now I'm going to set this aside. The next thing is to clean. Put these parts over here. The next thing to do is clean this guy. So this is easy. They're all kind of self-contained. So if you hold it by the plunger here, like this, I'm going to call this the stopper. Hold it by the stopper. You can remove the white sleeve, right? But remember that the lip of the sleeve faces down toward the stopper. It's very important to remember this. So you can pull this off. And then you take this piece, which won't come off because there's a little crimp. See, I can hold it real close. There's a little crimp here. And that little crimp prevents this plastic threaded piece from coming off. So I'm just going to take this and shake it in the water. So take the water, bring it back over here. Again, if you had clean water and dirty water, you could really get it really nice. And you just wipe this with a paper towel. Maybe blow a little air in. Do it again. Now, like I said, I don't recommend doing this every single time you clean. But if you're going from a dark ink to a light ink, and you really want it, don't want any interference with the ink, or you're an ink reviewer, and you want to basically keep this as clean as possible, you wouldn't even do this in the first place. You just use a cartridge, and you would just keep syringe filling these cartridges. But anyway, so now this is basically clear. I mean, it's got a little green on it because look at this water. It's going to have a little green. I didn't really run it out as dry as I could. And yeah, I could probably use some real clean water and get that. Now remember, I got to reinstall the lip on this thing facing toward the stopper. So like when you see this lip, here you can see it behind my hand, there's a little ridge right here. And that ridge is the lip, and you want that to face this direction. And it won't go forward, like it'll stop. Right, so I'm going to take this piece and now I'm going to thread it back into the back portion of the converter. And if it's slipping a little, you just take the threaded piece and you kind of pull a little forward and you get it started. And if you really can't get it started, you take the tweezers. So like I'm having difficulty. This is a prime example. Take the tweezers and you get it in that little slot. So let me see if I can get it in the camera view. See if I can get in this camera view here. I'm just straddling that wire as I turn. There we go. So now I'm getting it nice and snug. Now, the problem now is I need to really make this more tight than it is. Right now it's just like finger tight. I want it just a little bit. So I'm going to apply a little pressure, not too much. And you'll know. You'll know when you do this. You'll be like, "Oh, how tight do I make this?" And the answer is you make it tight. Because, it's like you want it so that if I move to the left with my hand nice and easy, I'm not unthreading it, right? If I put some little bit of pressure on, like barely any pressure, and I'm turning to the left, I really don't want this to start unthreading. Because if this unthreads, while it's all inside your pen, you'll get ink coming out the back, and then your barrel will be filled with ink. And then your pocket will be filled with ink. So this like little bit, just tighten it. There you go. Okay. So now that sub-assembly, this little back section is now, not only is it clean, but like look, it's clean and it's reassembled. And if you want to test it, you can spring it. You can be like, "Oh, I want to play with springs in a second here." But we're going to take this barrel section. And like I said, you can just take a paper towel. I have a cheap paper towel here, whatever this is. And I just squeeze it in there. And just run that through here. Okay. Now, it's always easy to remember which way this goes. Like if you forgot, there's a threaded part and a non-threaded part. And the threaded part goes toward the back. It goes towards this thread, goes towards the springs. The springs look like threads. The threads and the springs go together. This part has no threads. It's going to go towards the section of the pen when you install it. So right now it's just sitting there like friction. And you can feel if you have a good seal, because as you do it, you'll feel a little bit of resistance as you install it. Right? And now we can test the spring. I can push the spring. And if it feels good, like you're getting a little resistance, then you know you have a decent seal. You have it working. If you're pushing it, you don't feel any resistance at all. You might have damaged that little ring, and now it's time to buy another converter. And they're not terribly expensive, but if you could just clean it, you just do it. Then you take the back part, the threaded part, and you're going to thread this back on. It takes a few turns. You just keep going until it's done. There you go. And there you go. There's your converter. It's now clean. It's ready to go. Right? But my nib wasn't clean, right? So that cleaning that and doing that whole process should be pretty standard, right? You take your nib, throw in some water. You might have a bulb filler, whatever procedure you like. Checking if I got ink still on it, throwing it on a rag, covering your hands full of ink, whatever you like to do. You've got a procedure or whatever. But anyways, the point of the video is not to clean the nib. To clean nibs, you could pull it all apart and all this stuff, but for now we're just doing this converter, and I put that back in. And you just want to make sure that everything kind of slides back down. Everything looks like the way it was before you took it apart. You can do all those checks, and that's it. That's how you clean. That's how you clean the CON-70 converter. And taking the extra steps to clean that back portion. So, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.